I'd like to invite up front here Dr. Meena Subramanian, Dr. Subra Dravida, and Sid Santhanam. All three of them are very, very dedicated to Ekal's cause, and what we'd like to do is to have them share their experiences and tell us a little more about, why Ekal is the cause that they chose to support. So what I'll do is, do we have another mic?
We do. And you can take this mic also out, I think, right? Talk to them.
You can take this out and give.
Here's another chair.
Yeah, that's fine. I can stand. So a quick round of introductions, and I'll start with Dr. Meena Subramanian. A lot of you know her. Meena is a research scientist, and she's a vice president at Biogen. Dr. Subra Dravida is a VP of technology at Qualcomm, and Sid Santhanam is a high school senior at Medfield High School. Thank you all for being here and willing to share your experiences with the audience. So, Meena, I'll start with you. I know there are many good causes out there, and that's one good thing about being in Boston. There are so many great organizations that we can be associated with, and you are. But there's something about Ekal that appealed to you. So, can you tell us what was the draw here?
Thanks, Anu, for asking me to share my thoughts with this august group of people. So at the risk of stating the obvious, we heard from the previous speakers the value and the power of education, right? So to me, the cause of Ekal cannot be more noble, and it cannot be more fundamental, right? So all of us, when we were born and we were brought up in India, we took many things for granted. So like everybody who's assembled in the room here, there wasn't a moment in my life where I had to worry about, can I access things, such as fundamental as education, right? It was taken for granted. We'd go to school, our parents helped us succeed, and we were aspiring to do more. So in terms of opportunities, we were able to accomplish so much because we took things for granted and things were available to us. So when I hear what Ekal is able to do for children who don't even have the fundamental understanding of what is their right and what is their privilege, this is just something that I think is very important for us to, make available to the children. There is so much potential in our country. We have so much untapped potential, and the reason it remains untapped is because we have not opened the eyes of these individuals to the possibilities. They are not connecting. We just heard from Dr. Barucha about the ability to connect. So for me, education is not just didactic education. I'm also a teacher, I'm an artist, I teach dance. And dance is not something very fundamental to most of the kids growing here. The concepts with regards to Hinduism, the religion, the epics. But when they hear the stories and when you're able to help them connect the stories to something that is contemporary in their daily lives, I see that spark in them. I see that, the energy that comes in the learning. And that is the sort of things that Ekal is able to afford. So for me, that delivery vehicle of Ekal in helping children understand what is their fundamental right and helping them develop as individuals. And so that's the reason why I support this cause.
Great, thanks. We'll go to Subra next. So Subra has been associated with Ekal and he's played various roles at Ekal. So he started out as a donor, then he was a volunteer. He's also held leadership positions at Ekal. So Subra, what was your draw?
As Dr. Subramanian just said, there are many reasons, but in my case I would state the most visceral reason of all why I started getting involved in Ekal was actually my grandfather was a teacher, several generations of teachers in the family. It was a very interesting setup. There was a small place in Andhra Pradesh where he was a teacher, and kids from the surrounding villages would come and also learn from him and other teachers as well. There's a Telugu word, it says, it's Varalu, it just basically means weeklies. So what that means is, on Monday they're with the math teacher, they bring some water from the well, and then in return for that they get some food. It was like a work-study program that was going on in these villages. It was very amazing. And then later on I saw, the effect of it I saw was, later on when he had retired, he was staying with us. And these people would come, they would become teachers and doctors and engineers. They would show up and then they'll hunt my grandfather down somehow and say, in 66 I was your Monday. In 1967 I was your Thursday or something like that. The impact he had was enormous. People who had no access to education, suddenly their lives were transformed. Multi-generations of them were transformed. So if you give the opportunity to the kids, the ripples can get wide and the sky is the limit. And that's why it appealed to me viscerally. And there are a host of other reasons. Ekal is involved in holistic development and so on. It's the best investment in India's future from my point of view.
Good. Okay, we'll move to Sid next. So Sid just visited a village in India, an Ekal village in the summer. And for those of you who have gone through senior year with your kids, you know that the period between junior and senior year is a very stressful time. But he still took the time during that period between junior and senior year and went and visited an Ekal village. So Sid, what prompted you to do that?
So a couple years ago, my parents told me about this charity called Ekal Vidyalaya, and I didn't really know much about it, so I wanted to do some more research about it. So I went on their website and I learned about it, and I was really amazed by how much work they've done, making 50,000 schools all over India and providing education to over 1 million children. And I was really motivated to play my role in that, as I was given such a wonderful education in Medfield. So this past June, I organized a solo piano recital, and I wanted to donate all proceeds to Ekal. And my goal is to raise around $2,000 through this recital, but we ended up raising around $5,000. And through this, through the $5,000, we were able to fund a school for life. And I just didn't want it to end there. I wanted to visit one of these schools. I wanted to see how the schools were run, how the children were being educated. So this past summer, I visited a school in Gundlapet, which is around an hour from Mysore. So I visited the school, and I saw the children. They were absolutely amazing. And the school I visited, the school had only one small lamp powering the entire room. And the room was extremely dark. It was late in the evening, but the light didn't come just from the lamp, but it came from the children who were illuminating the room with their energy, with their enthusiasm to learn. It was really amazing to see that. And I think that their hunger to learn, their enthusiasm to gain knowledge really pushes me to help them get the education.
Thank you, Sid. That's the most amazing story I've heard, and we all can have more kids do that. That'll just be awesome. So Subra, I'm going to turn to you next to, if you can give us like a brief overview of Ekal's operating model. We heard from Ranjini, it sounds like a very unique operating model. So if you can just get us all to a common understanding of the operating model, we'll move on from there.
Okay, so I'll do my best. Basically, as I think Prime Minister Modi, he said that, right? Yeah, one room, one school. So kids from the ages from anywhere from 5 to 13 come to this particular school. The teacher is from the local area as well. Oh, sorry. So the whole concept is one room.
Maybe you can stand up also, it's hard to see.
Yes. Okay. So one room, one school. Kids from anywhere from learning age 5 to 13, they come to this particular school. The teacher has a very daunting task of keeping these kids of various age groups interested in what's going on, but they teach the whole class as a whole. The latest techniques, the digital technologies and so on that are coming in actually help with keeping different kids interested in different things. That really helps with that. But basically the idea is to teach all of them in one room. The teacher is from the local area. And so that's how it starts. And then we've been using the school as a nucleus for a lot of other change as well. So on weekends, we get the parents, they get to learn about health and hygiene. Certain times, vaccinations are given. And then the whole Gramathon concept has grown out of that, and now skills are being taught, so on. So, but it starts with basic education for kids of that age group.
Okay, great, thanks. So Meena is a professional in corporate America, has been for many years now, and I'm sure you appreciate the importance of the operating model on the success of the organization. And Ekal seems to have found that right operating model which has led to the success. What are your thoughts on this?
So this essentially goes back to another point that Dr. Barucha made, is many of you may be aware that the Indian government has had several initiatives for improving primary education and enhancing the access. But as he pointed out, none of them have been successful because they have not adapted the model to suit the needs of these individual remote villages, right? So what makes Ekal stand apart is the way they have tailored their model to meet the needs of rural India. So as Ranjini ji pointed out, the school runs for 3 hours, but the village decides when the school runs, right? And they look at education as not just didactic education of learning languages or mathematics, but they do appreciate the fact that there is a component of learning about hygiene, there's a component of learning about health and wellness. And being a woman, I think particularly in India, where there's so much violence against children and particularly girls, empowering them to understand, what is changing in them and about, in the environment that they are living in, and how do they protect themselves and take care of themselves is very, very important. So the Ekal model, I think, is highly successful because, first of all, you have a teacher who's organically grown in the village. There is trust. So as a parent, I know it's very important for me to trust, an environment where my child is going to be. So I think that is the first winner there. And then the second thing is, you're allowing them to maintain their culture. So if there's an expectation that children do certain things at home, you're not disrespecting the parents' wishes, right? Because there is a livelihood that they need to take care of. You're not solving all of their life problems. So they need to really be, contributing members to the family, besides which you're now allowing them to enrich themselves and really connect with their environment and think about their future. So these are all the various concepts. So when Sundar and I, my husband, we were researching about the various ways in which we could be, giving back to our country. And, this was one thing that was very attractive to us, that Ekal, even though they have a very holistic model that they're able to plug and play. So they're able to take this model and really implement this in multiple villages, but they empower the villages to really customize it for their needs. And I think that is very important. This is what the government has missed, right? So you have absenteeism from teachers, you have children who don't attend. I don't even know if they understand that the model is failing because of this.
So, if I were to summarize that, in my mind, I think Ekal's model works within the cultural confines of that particular village, and that is why it is so successful. So Sid, you actually were there. So we are talking theory right now about how the operating model would work, etc. But Sid actually went to the class and he attended a class. Can you tell us what you learned? What was different in sitting in that classroom as opposed to Medfield?
So when I went to the village, I visited there for 2 days. So the first day I visited, the children showed us the songs and dances they had learned in their classes. So one interesting song that I learned was the one about geography and the various countries of the world. So they're singing about Nepal, India, Africa, Europe. So all these places around the world that they wouldn't have known about had it not been for these teachers who have been teaching them about the geography. As Dr. Brocha mentioned earlier, active learning is a great way for children to learn optimally. So an example from my own perspective is last year I took AP US history, and that was a class that it's just complete rote memorization, reading the textbook, and just listening to boring lectures. And I'd zone out after 10 minutes of class, maybe fall asleep. And it was just a complete visual and auditory learning setting. But I think what the Ekal School does best is incorporating that hands-on experience, that kinesthetic learning that they are able to learn through dances, songs, and just able to have fun and engage in this learning experience that is exciting. And I think that's what's the best component of this Ekal School, is that they incorporate this hands-on learning.
Excellent. So we know the operating model works. This reminds me of a speaker we had last year in the panel. She was a researcher from Harvard who researched different education methods in various countries. And she said that one of the conclusions of their research study was that in developing countries, it is better to use local training tools and local methods as opposed to importing tools from much more developed countries. So in this case, rather than taking something from the US and just putting it in there, to try to find something that is local. And I think it's great to know that Ekal's operating model is doing what Harvard researchers have done research and found to be the best practice.
Wow.
So isn't that awesome?
Awesome.
Okay, I'm going to, in the interest of time, we'll wrap this up quickly. But before that, I just wanted to ask you, Meena, is there anything else you want to share with the audience?
So the one other thing I failed to mention is also, the distance that children need to travel to go to school, right? That is a common issue that we have in India. So that's the other problem that is solved, particularly with regard to girls, where they don't have to go to school unaccompanied or just with, other young girls, that they can be right there in the village and there could be adult supervision if they had to attend classes. So that's another, positive thing about the model. So, so the value that we get for the investment, I think, is multifold. It's very hard to compute it in terms of dollars. For me, it's really, when you look at the accomplishments over the years, in 25 years, what Ekal has been able to accomplish, I think it's spectacular. And it's very inspiring for me to come and see that there are so many supporters here in the local community for this particular, organization. And I feel very gratified that the investment is, going in the right direction. Thanks.
Any last thoughts from you, Subra?
Just to add to what has been said here, there is also there's a cultural component, as you said. There's a lot of dance and so on. There's wonderful ways of learning. In addition to that, what we have found, actually, studies have been done about this, is the kids are learning work ethic and discipline. They show up on time and so on. And research has shown that when eventually people try to hire kids from this village for various jobs, they actually they like them very much because they've been trained to, conform to time and all that stuff. So that's another, big benefit to the local economy as well. So I think the whole operating model has been tested over 25 years. It's been adapted for local conditions. It has proven results. It's of enormous significance. 50,000 students multiplied by the number of students. I can't recall. It must be millions of kids.
1.5 million kids.
1.5 million kids have passed through the system. It's an enormous impact.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
So Sid, one thing I did not mention about Sid is that in addition to being a really good piano player, he's also a national chess player. This kid really has it all. So Sid, just in closing, do you want to share with us, I know we talked about a little story involving chess, so why don't you tell that to the audience? They'll love it.
So on my second day to the school, I wanted to teach the kids just one of my greatest passions, chess. So when I brought the chessboard to the classroom, I heard the kids all whispering, "Oh, chess, chess, chess." And I learned later that they actually had a chessboard earlier. Someone had donated them a chessboard, and they had learned the game. They had been able to learn all these strategies involved. But unfortunately, some of the pieces had been lost. So in order to keep learning the game, they made a makeshift chessboard out of the sand and pebbles they found near the school. And I was really moved by that because coming from the US, I had access to multiple resources, books, computer databases, just to learn the game. And I really wanted to give them that opportunity to help continue their learning chess. So I gave them the chessboard, and I wanted to help them learn more. So I think opportunity is one of the biggest playmakers in this children's education, because they have the hunger to learn, they have the motivation, and once we give them the opportunity, they will use that to the highest potential and highest use.
So you can see how even in a resource-strapped environment like that, something like chess, the kids actually really want to learn and do well at. That brings me to why I am involved with Ekal and what is my connection with Ekal. I think the first thing that struck me about Ekal was the $1 a day to run the school. I mean, $1, we drop it on the floor and we don't bother looking for it. That's all it takes to run a school for a whole day. So being from the financial services industry, for me, like the ROI on that was just amazing. I was like, really, $1 a day. I mean, you can't beat this, right? If Ekal was a stock, I'm sure Warren Buffett would have grabbed it. Anyway, so there is, and Ranjini also spoke about this multiplicative effect of that $1. You know, so when you give $1 with all the volunteerism and everything that goes with it, you are actually getting $4. So that multiplicative effect was also something that was very remarkable. And just, you know, the one thing about education is when you educate one generation, you are not really doing service for that generation, but it's the next one and the next one and the next one, and it just goes on and on. So that word multi-generational, that really struck me, because it feels like you just give $1 a day, you just take care of one generation, and everything you know, happens on its own. So I hope this panel was useful to all of you to learn more about Ekal from the personal experiences of our panelists. I would urge you to consider you know, connecting with Ekal in whatever way is best for you, volunteering, donating, and just remember that every donor dollar goes a long way. And when you give a gift to Ekal, it's a gift that just keeps on giving. Thank you.